The Martian, Andy Weir. This is a near-future survival novel with practical humor, clean momentum, and a problem-solving setting that feels familiar. For readers who say they do not like science fiction, this is usually the safest first step, because the book does not ask you to memorize a new empire, a strange vocabulary, or a complicated timeline. It works because the science is attached to everyday questions. How do you fix something? How do you ration supplies? How do you stay calm when the next problem is smaller than the big idea, but still urgent? The interesting fact is that Andy Weir first shared the material online, and the book kept its friendly engineering energy when it became a major bestseller. That history matters for this guide because the book feels unusually direct. It reads like someone smart is explaining a hard situation in plain language, not like a genre gatekeeper testing whether you belong. If your resistance to science fiction comes from dense lore, this is the cleanest correction. Start here if you want pace, clarity, and a strong sense that every page is moving toward a practical answer. It also helps that the humor is steady rather than noisy, so the book feels inviting without turning into a parody of the genre. Station 11. Emily St. John Mandel. This is a literary speculative novel with a quiet tone, elegant structure, and a broad social setting that feels close to real life. The reason it works for people who avoid science fiction is simple. It does not feel like a machine book. It feels like a book about memory, culture, art, and what people try to preserve when normal life changes. The speculative frame is present, but the reading experience is more graceful than technical. You are not being pushed through explanations of engines, planets, or rules. You are being invited to notice atmosphere and connection. One useful fact is that the novel won the Arthur the 100th Clarke Award, which is a science fiction prize, while also reaching many readers who mostly read literary fiction. That tells you exactly why it belongs here. It sits on the bridge between genres. If your problem with science fiction is that it often feels cold, this book is a strong answer. Choose it if you like calm prose, emotional texture, and a book that uses speculative ideas to sharpen human questions rather than overwhelm you with systems. For a hesitant reader, that balance matters because the book offers atmosphere first and genre label second. Never Let Me Go, Kazuo Ishiguro. This is a restrained literary novel with a soft speculative premise, an intimate voice, and a contained English setting. For many readers, this is not what science fiction is supposed to feel like, and that is the point. The book does not lead with technology. It leads with memory, manners, routine, and the slow pressure of understanding a world through a limited perspective. If you bounce off science fiction because it feels loud or overbuilt, this is one of the best counterexamples. It is speculative by implication rather than spectacle. An interesting fact is that Kazuo Ishiguro is often discussed as a literary novelist before he is discussed as a genre writer, even when his books use speculative frames. That makes this a useful soft entry, because it respects readers who prefer tone and character over concepts. You should pick it when you want ambiguity, restraint, and a book that asks you to sit with its atmosphere. Do not choose it as your first soft entry if you need fast pacing. Choose it if you want a serious, controlled reading experience that proves science fiction can be quiet. The result is a book that can be recommended without asking the reader to learn a fictional system before caring about the voice. The Time Traveler's Wife, Audrey Niffenegger. This is a romantic speculative novel with a grounded emotional tone, a contemporary setting, and one unusual time-based idea. Readers who dislike science fiction often dislike the feeling that the concept matters more than the people. This book reverses that balance. The genre device is there, but the experience is closer to a long relationship drama with an unusual pressure built into it. That makes it a strong bridge for readers who normally choose contemporary fiction, romance, or character-driven novels. A useful fact is that the book became a major mainstream success far beyond the usual science fiction shelf. That reach is important because it shows how a speculative premise can become accessible when the emotional question is easy to understand. You do not need to enjoy technical time travel rules to read it. You only need to be willing to accept one impossible condition and then watch how it changes the texture of ordinary life. Pick this if your doorway into science fiction should be feeling first. Skip it as a first pick if you want a tidy system or a puzzle box. This is a soft entry because the genre idea supports the emotion. Flowers for Algernon, Daniel Keyes. This is a short, human-centered science fiction novel with direct prose, emotional clarity, and a medical research premise. If your problem with science fiction is that the genre feels too big, this is the opposite. The book makes one idea feel close, personal, and easy to follow. It is not trying to impress you with scale. It is trying to make one change feel meaningful. That is why it remains one of the best soft entry books for readers who want intelligence without a learning curve. The interesting fact here is that Flowers for Algernon began as an award-winning short story before expanding into a novel. That origin explains the clean shape of the reading experience. It has the focus of a short piece, but the space of a novel. You can read it without knowing genre history, without tracking a large cast, and without committing to a series. Choose it if you want a compact book that shows how science fiction can be about dignity, self-perception, and the limits of improvement. It is one of the strongest answers to the idea that science fiction is only about gadgets. Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury. This is a short classic dystopian novel with poetic language, social pressure, and a near-future setting built around books and attention. It belongs in this guide because many readers who avoid science fiction still understand the anxiety at the center of it. The book is not asking you to learn a galaxy. It is asking you to think about distraction, conformity, and the value of reading itself. That makes it unusually useful for a book recommendation channel, because the subject connects directly to why people read it all. A helpful fact is that Ray Bradbury is often taught in schools and read outside the genre aisle, so this book has become a cultural bridge rather than a niche object. The prose is more lyrical than technical. The length is manageable. The central idea is clear before the world becomes complicated. Choose this if you want a classic that still feels readable and relevant. Do not start here if you want comfort. Start here if you want a short, serious book that proves science fiction can be literary, accessible, and directly connected to everyday habits. The Martian, Andy Weir. This is a fast, accessible science fiction novel with a practical voice, a simple survival frame, and almost no genre homework. If I had to choose only one safest starting point from this list, it would be this book because it solves the biggest anti-science fiction objection first. It does not feel abstract. It does not hide the point behind invented history. It gives you a situation, a voice, and a stream of concrete problems. That combination makes the book especially good for people who usually prefer thrillers, nonfiction, or movies with clear stakes. The buying decision is also simple. You are not committing to a giant series. You are not gambling on a dense classic. You are trying one modern standalone that many readers already know by reputation because of its film adaptation. That does not make the book less useful. It makes the entry smoother. If you finish it and enjoy the competence, humor, and momentum, you can move outward into more idea-driven science fiction later. For a no-pressure first test, The Martian is the cleanest recommendation. Station 11. Emily St. John Mandel. This is a literary speculative novel with soft pacing, reflective prose, and a wide human canvas rather than a technical puzzle. If you read contemporary fiction, prize winners, or book club novels more often than genre fiction, this may be the better first pick than The Martian. The reason is not that it is easier in a childish way. It is easier because the vocabulary of the book is familiar. It cares about art, memory, daily rituals, and the fragile things people carry forward. The speculative setting changes the pressure around those subjects, but it does not replace them. That is the key soft entry principle. Start with the part of science fiction that already overlaps with what you enjoy. Station 11 is not trying to convert you through gadgets. It converts you through mood and recognition. It is also a useful recommendation because it does not require a sequel, a glossary, or a fan map. Choose it if you want a serious but readable novel that happens to sit near science fiction. It is one of the best bridges from literary fiction into speculative reading. Never Let Me Go, Kazuo Ishiguro. This is a quiet speculative novel with literary restraint, emotional distance, and a setting that feels ordinary until its rules become clear. It is one of the best choices for readers who want science fiction to create discussion rather than spectacle. The book is not built like an adventure. It is built like a slow moral weather system. That makes it powerful for book clubs, classroom-style reading, or anyone who likes to finish a novel and pick this when you value atmosphere and implication. Do not pick it when you need a fast external goal on every page. Its strength is not speed. Its strength is control. It shows that science fiction can ask deeply human questions without feeling like a science lesson. It also gives you a path into other literary speculative books, where the impossible element is small enough to enter quietly but large enough to change how you read the world. For thoughtful readers, this is a strong, soft entry. It rewards patient readers because the important experience is not speed, but the gradual adjustment of what the reader thinks they understand. The Time Traveler's Wife, Audrey Niffenegger. This is an emotional speculative romance with a modern setting, an intimate scale, and one unusual rule shaping ordinary relationships. It is important because many people say they dislike science fiction, when what they really dislike is emotional distance. They do not want a manual. They want a reason to care. This book gives them that reason before asking them to accept the speculative device. The concept is not a wall at the entrance. It is the pressure that makes the reading experience different. For a soft entry lane, that matters. A reader who loves contemporary drama may not want spaceships, military strategy, or technological debates. They may still be open to a book where time behaves strangely because the emotional situation remains clear. This is the safest pick from the list for that kind of reader. It also works as a reminder that science fiction is not only a shelf label. Sometimes it is a single, impossible premise placed inside a very recognizable life. Choose this when you want the genre idea to stay close to the heart of the book. Flowers for Algernon, Daniel Keyes. This is a concise, emotional science fiction novel with clear language, a focused premise, and a deeply personal reading experience. If you are nervous about starting science fiction because you do not want a long commitment, this is the compact test. It gives you the core power of the genre in a short frame. One change creates a whole set of human questions. You do not need background knowledge to understand why those questions matter. That is why the book stays approachable even when the subject becomes serious. It is also useful for viewers who want a book that can be finished quickly without feeling lightweight. Some short books feel like appetizers. This one feels complete. It shows how a speculative idea can sharpen empathy, self-image, and the way we think about intelligence. For a buying decision, the recommendation is simple. Pick Flowers for Algernon if your priority is emotional impact in fewer pages. Pick The Martian if your priority is momentum. Pick Station 11 if your priority is literary atmosphere. This is the best short emotional doorway. Fahrenheit 451. Ray Bradbury. This is a brief classic science fiction novel with a social warning tone, lyrical prose, and a world built around reading itself. If you normally prefer classics, school list books, or cultural reference points, this may be your softest entry. You will not be starting with a giant universe. You will be starting with a short book whose central concern is easy to recognize. What do people lose when attention, curiosity, and independent reading become fragile? That question gives the book a direct doorway for non-science fiction readers. The interesting part is that Bradbury often described himself in broader imaginative terms, rather than as a purely technical science fiction writer. That helps explain the texture of the book. It is more poetic warning than engineering exercise. It is also the best pick here for readers who want something famous enough to feel worth the effort and short enough to avoid intimidation. Choose it after or instead of The Martian if you want the genre to feel more classic, more symbolic, and more connected to the act of reading. For cultural weight with low page commitment, this is the clearest choice. It is also a useful final recommendation because it reminds viewers that science fiction can protect reading culture rather than distract from it.